Hello, good morning. I am Ryan Ingram, and this is the Friday morning real estate chat. This is a live stream that we do every Friday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, where I do my very best to answer all the questions that you might have. I am attempting to do a new kind of camera setup. So, this is a lot higher resolution. This is a 4K camera, which is exciting. It's streaming straight from the device. So, this little red dot in the top right corner, can't get that away. That is the small price that we currently have to pay based on my lack of understanding, knowledge, experience in setting up um, audio visual equipment to get the best resolution. But I think this is a great quality of lighting or whatever. So I've got a few people that are supposed to help me try to figure out how to do all this setup, but it's not too important. I think that red dot is going to prevent it from shutting off midstream like it has done in the past. So I'm pretty excited. Let me get all set up. Any kind of questions that you have, you can go ahead and post those in the chat. Very happy to answer any of the questions that you might have. Go ahead and get a disclaimer rolling saying that I am not a professional. I'm not somebody that you should listen to. Every situation inside of real estate investing is extraordinarily unique, and you should definitely seek like a local professional, one that you could sit down and talk with and get a full picture of your situation before you take any actions based on advice given. So I don't know how pertinent it is that I say that from an insurance perspective, from a liability perspective. I know every YouTuber kind of says a similar disclaimer, but at this point, we're just discussing a whole bunch of theories and my experience on things. And speaking of, let me go ahead and pull up the spreadsheet. We have currently purchased a decent number of properties for this year. In January, my brother and I set out the extraordinarily ambitious goal of buying 200 homes this year. That was something that we felt was very much so out of reach. We thought it might be possible, but we weren't sure how close that we were actually going to get. And I am very proud to say that we have, so far this year, purchased 187 homes. That's a big number. We started the year with right at 200. So we hope to end the year at 400. We have purchased 187 homes so far this year, and we currently have let's see here. We currently have 18 under contract. So we should end the year with just barely over 200 properties purchased. And it feels pretty crazy. Super thankful for it. Really thankful for the team behind us that helps us make all of this happen. It is most certainly a road that is better traveled with a lot of people. This is not something that either Will, my brother, or I would have been able to achieve without our team. So we're super thankful for all those fellas. Super thankful. This last property that we purchased was the first foreclosure that we have purchased in a very long time. It was a bank-owned property. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we can talk about it for a second. So this is the first bank-owned property that we have purchased in a very long time. Pretty much, I think, since early 2020, when all of the foreclosures and all of the moratoriums or whatever else you want to call it was put into effect. So we bought this property for $48,000, and this is the condition that it's in. Anybody that has looked at or ever purchased a bank-owned property, they are always winterized, and they always have all of these sheets of paper posted on the doors. So from an exterior perspective, it looks really clean. I'm pretty thrilled with it, just the way that it looks. The roof looks a little bit old. If we kind of zoom in here, I'm always scared to zoom in on Google because I never know how to zoom back out to the point where I can get it to where it was. So yeah, I should stop doing that. All right, there we go. So vinyl siding, a little bit of an aged 3-tab roof, but a really nice carport and a driveway and sidewalk and steps that are all in pretty good shape. One of the things that happens to concrete most at a lot of the properties is they crumble. So I'm thrilled to see that this hasn't. Just another angle. You can see this addition out back. Here's the kitchen. We may or may not do something about this. It looks dated, but everything is in pretty good shape. The sink isn't, but as far as the color choices in this house, they're all over the place. You can see the blue carpet in the other room. But nonetheless, as far as $48,000 goes, this is $48,000 well spent. And even though this carpet looks like an ocean, it is clean and it is in good shape. As you can see, the walls are as well. And this ceiling is in really good shape too. And it's got some fun patterns inside of it. Man, this carpet, so blue. And then a little bit of pattern on the wall as well from where they just took it over from the ceiling. They said, hey, if it works on the ceiling, why wouldn't it work on walls too? Bathroom. Here's some more of what I was talking about with that toilet. It's been winterized, this property, which means they took all the water out of the pipes so that the pipes don't freeze. Again, everything is really dated, but as far as bank-owned properties go, that's in pretty solid shape. Since it has been so long that we've bought a bank-owned property or a foreclosure, we forgot how difficult these banks are to work with. Here's a picture of the closet hardwood floors. Anytime you see like hardwood floors in a closet like this, it is safe to assume that those same hardwood floors exist in the room as well. Now, what kind of shape they're in, not real sure, but they should be there. And this is the addition off of the back. And there is a really cool piece of wall art. I liked it a lot, and I felt so inclined to take a picture in front of it. A little old-fashioned selfie wall inside of a bank-owned property. I had the realtor do it as well because we just thought it was so funny. And I tried to take it to where if it weren't for this little piece of baseboard here and this hidden outlet, maybe we could have tricked some people into thinking that we were on a vacation. But it is a 3-bedroom house. Arguably, there's a fourth one. It really depends on how somebody so chooses to live in it. But there it is. Here's the backyard. You can see decent size. I'm thrilled with it. It should rent for somewhere around the $850, maybe $900 per month mark. So that should be good enough to make it work. We're kind of to be determined on how much we're going to put into it from a rehab perspective. There is a pretty large demand for cheaper rent. So there's a market for properties out there that are affordable rather than refinishing this entire property and asking for like top of market rent. So we get a lot of requests as we post other properties of, hey, I just want something cheap to live in. You don't have to do the work. I'm more than well qualified. I just don't want to pay so much in rent. Looking for a break. So we will probably take this one, make sure that everything is functional inside of it, and see if anybody is willing to live with blue carpet and a green kitchen. So that's it. That's that deal. We'll test the waters. We'll make sure it all works, and then we'll put that up for rent. But I really just want to share that with you guys because it's been a couple of years now since we have bought any type of foreclosure or bank-owned property. So that's the first that has been made available on the market in quite some time that I'm aware of, that it still made sense to purchase it. So we will see. We will see. Good morning. Questions on starting or buying foreclosures with private money? Are the funds sent directly to you? Great content on YouTube, by the way. I really appreciate it. Have you ever had the property reclaimed by the plaintiff? If so, how did you navigate the private lender's funds? Okay, these are great questions. So first off, I would say that when you are dealing with private money, it is always best practice to get those funds wired to the title company. The title company should hold the funds in their escrow account until the property is cleared to close. Now, if you are buying a foreclosure, then you're going to have to put some type of deposit down, and you're going to have to do the money is going to go to the county. So you wouldn't necessarily be closing through a title company so much as you would be closing there. However, I would still use the title company to handle the promissory note and the mortgage. Because how I would recommend doing this is borrowing more than the purchase price on the foreclosure. So if you're going to use private funds, if you are going to buy a foreclosed property for 40 grand and then you are going to need to put another 40 grand into it, then you should borrow 80 grand and you should, man, I'm sitting here thinking, if you're talking about foreclosures, which are handled through the court, so the funds are going to have to be wired to you. I don't know. I would check with the title company that you're comfortable with working at, and I would see if they have the ability to cut a check to that. That way you could sit there and record the promissory note and the mortgage from the title company. I suppose it's not a big deal, but the money that is from the private lender would be unsecured until that property is rightfully yours. And you don't really want that money to be unsecured. You want that money to be secured for the private lender's sake on a property. So that money would have to sit somewhere until you have the ability to close on it. So do your best to work through a title company. If the funds need to be wired directly to you to make the deal work, I suppose you could do that, but I would just do so cautiously, very cautiously. We have never had a property reclaimed by the plaintiff. If there's one thing that I know about the government, it is that they give such a long heads up, so much contact by mail. There are so many different ways to get out of this before it actually gets to the foreclosure, that by the time you actually make it to the foreclosure, the chances of the plaintiff coming back and now figuring out a solution are extraordinarily slim. If they were driven or motivated to do it, they would have had ample opportunity before it got to this point where you are bidding on it. So, and the foreclosure has already taken place. I would say that if whoever the plaintiff has the ability or at some point figures out how to keep the property, you should probably work with them and let them do that and not get too flustered by it. because the odds of that happening are so slim, you should probably be supportive. And I imagine the courts would as well. And I imagine that the courts would also work with you to get your funds back, so that it is, so that you're not out of anything, except time, I suppose. So that's what I would say. Every municipality is different. I had a comment on the foreclosure video recently where somebody was just saying that everything that I said in the video was wrong, which may be true for wherever that person is operating out of. But here locally, for all the experiences that I've had in working inside of Montgomery County in Ohio, everything I said was accurate. So it's probably going to play out a little bit differently in each different municipality. Yeah, if the payment needs to go directly to the county, then I suppose you're going to have to touch that unsecured money for a second, and I would just secure it as soon as you're able to. So as soon as you close with the county and it's recorded, go through a title company, get that promissory note mortgage drafted up and recorded. That way you're securing your private lender's funds. I suppose you could just go through an attorney. But I would still want a title company to be involved throughout the entire process, because even though you are closing with the county, you still are going to want to do a title search. You're still going to want to get title insurance on the property. Even though they're not necessarily going to do the closing, you still want to get a title company's approval to close, because the county, even though they probably have great intentions, it is very much so possible for them to miss things. In fact, a good friend of mine recently purchased a property from a foreclosure, paid the county, and inside of his due diligence with the title company, they uncovered a multitude of title issues that the county was not able to resolve. So they gave him his funds back. Now, it was a long process. It probably took a month and a half or so in order to get that resolved. But nonetheless, if he didn't use the title company, chances of him ever learning of these would have been pretty slim, or too late. So go through the title company as much as you can. Morning. When should one do a cost segregation study, and how does it work, benefit? Started real estate investing this year. Well, congrats on starting real estate investing this year. We are very fortunate to have a great team of CPAs. I don't know anything about cost segregation, and this is something that I would solely rely on the professionals that are inundated in this stuff. I would learn just as enough about it to understand how it works and why it benefits you to use it. But as far as when, how, I would lean on the professionals. So I'm not even going to attempt to answer that one. Everybody's situation is unique. Real estate investing is not a cookie cutter thing, and other ways that you get your income in order to invest in real estate to begin with are largely going to impact how your taxes look and what strategies are best for you. So find a really solid CPA. When my brother and I first started out, we used a smaller firm for our CPA. And then as we continued to grow, we very clearly and very quickly kind of maxed out their bandwidth. And consequently, we started looking for larger firms, ones that had the bandwidth and had multiple people. And if the person that we were dealing with had some sort of sickness, illness, or something else, there was somebody else there to kind of pick up the ball so that nothing was dropped. So figure out who you're comfortable with in your area, figure out how much bandwidth you're going to take up, and then work with somebody appropriately that you really trust. Sit down, iron out the ins and outs of your personal situation, all of the ways of which you make money, and which real estate investing strategy from a tax perspective or tax strategy would benefit you and your enterprises the most. That's what I would say. Good morning. Stranger from Cincy. Welcome back. Really good seeing you. I was wondering, from a contract point of view, with a private lender. Yeah, I mean, the cool thing about real estate and working with private lenders is you can essentially do virtually anything that you and a private lender agree upon, so long as it is secured. As soon as you start getting into unsecured funds, you should be a little bit more careful and cautious so as not to inadvertently or accidentally violate any types of security regulations with like the SEC or whatnot. So long as it's secured and it is a mortgage, then it's not a security. So you just don't want to accidentally make something a security that shouldn't be a security. So you should just be careful when it comes to unsecured funds and be very diligent about exactly what you're doing. So I would do your very best to make it to where you touch those unsecured funds as little as possible. But similar to this cost segregation question, I would say sitting down with an attorney that is familiar with foreclosures, real estate transactions, I would get their perspective on how you should execute and maneuver this. It would probably be ideal if you had funds elsewhere to close on this, either from credit cards, lines of credit, or anything like that. Then you would be able to close with your funds and then do like a very quick refinance once the foreclosure is deeded over to you. That's how I would recommend doing that. There you go. Good morning, Ryan and chat people. If you're buying a foreclosure, are you responsible for the second mortgage? If you're buying a foreclosure, you're not really responsible for anything. That's why second position mortgages are a little bit risky, is if the first position mortgage forecloses, then the second mortgage is entitled to any of the proceeds above and beyond the first mortgage's foreclosure proceeds. So in order for a second mortgage to appropriately get paid, the property would have to sell at a foreclosure for higher than and above that first position mortgage, which is probably pretty rare. So all of the liens, in theory, in the event of a foreclosure, should be wiped out. And you want to use a title company as you're doing this to do an appropriate search and to really dive into all of the liens on that property to make sure it's all handled appropriately. It's a really good question, and one that we get pretty frequently on this channel, as a lot of these questions are on that foreclosure video, which is still doing really well. I think it gets about 4 to 5 views per hour, which I'm super thankful for. This bank-owned property that we purchased this week, that was a real doozy. I mean, it's been a while, so like nobody's in the rhythm of working with banks right now because it's been a while since we've had this opportunity. But I have personally forgotten how difficult banks are to work with in the closing process. They are about how they dictate the closings. So for this particular bank, I mean, they were real bears to work with. They told the title company that they couldn't charge a decent number of their fees. They made the realtors involved in the transaction, both on my side and the seller side, take significantly less for commission. They made them, apply to their little portals and whatnot. So, I mean, all in all, everybody in this pretty much paid the bank for the property, realtors included. So it's pretty bizarre. But hey, there's that one quote that we have said a decent amount on this channel, which is, "He who has the gold makes the rules." I suppose in this situation, that could be applied a little bit, maybe modified a little bit. He who has the property makes the rules. But yeah, it's going to be a good property for us. I tried to not get frustrated and just look at how solid of an asset it is. But, nobody likes getting pushed around. Thank you. I appreciate it. How's the Dayton residential housing market doing in your opinion? Do you see a slowdown, lower prices in your market? Yeah, yeah, I do. But I also think that it is one of those things where value is still there. There's still a significant amount of opportunity. There are still opportunities to purchase properties for significantly lower than the after repair value. There is a lot of opportunity still to buy distressed properties that need a lot of work for, lesser than 75% of the after repair value when you consider the purchase price and the renovation costs. So things aren't necessarily flying off the shelves. A lot more cash buyers are kind of coming out of the woodworks and getting kind of precedence or preferential treatment over the other types of offers that are coming in on properties. I think competition has slowed for a while. As we were making our offers based on our analysis, we were getting people that were, bidding higher than us and getting the properties. At this point, it seems like as we're making offers, we might be the only offer, and they are more interested in negotiating with us. But we are still maintaining, the same type of analysis. I'm a true believer of the appropriate formula to buy a property is the purchase price plus the rehab costs. Needs to be equal to or lesser than 75% of the after repair value. So as things slow, as prices drop, then yes, the 75% of the after repair value formula, part of the formula will change. It will lessen. And then you will need to kind of readjust. So as you're acquiring properties right now, I see the exposure being greater when you are on short-term financing, when you are acquiring properties. And there's a little bit of an unknown variable in that formula is, what is 75% of that after repair value going to be? However, I want to be very clear and very vocal about the fact that it is not a situation where you should sit on the sidelines, wait for the market to settle out, or do anything. If you have a property that you are analyzing that would be valuable for your portfolio over the next 30 or 40 years, you should analyze it, purchase it, rehab it, and do all of your underwriting the same way that you normally would with all of the current information that you have on hand. If this is an asset that you are truly looking to hold for a very long time, then the numbers will work themselves out. You might not be able to refinance in 18 months as you initially planned. Maybe you're going to have to refinance in 36 months if that after repair value moves on you too much. But nonetheless, you're still going to be able to purchase equity, and you're still going to be able to rent out a property that has cash flow associated with it. So analyze the properties exactly the same as you always do. Make all of the same decisions as you normally would with all the information that you have on hand. And I think you're going to do just fine. Real estate is one of those things where you should always keep your long-term lens on and, make movements in uncertain times the same way that you would make movements in great times, right? As part of the mastermind, the Sequence of Mastermind group, we've been reading a decent number of books. Right now we're reading automatically the maximum recording time has been reached. There you go. Just restart that thing. Right now we're reading a book by Gary Keller, but before that we read Charlie Munger's book and we watched some of his interviews. And one of the main takeaways that I got from Mr. Charlie Munger is, hey, sometimes the market is with you and sometimes it's against you. So like sometimes the tide is with you, sometimes the tide's against you, but regardless, we just keep on swimming. So that really resonates with me. We have our formula. We are utilizing it. We're going to pivot as necessary, but we're going to continue purchasing assets. We're going to continue building our portfolio of single family homes and we're going to adapt to the market as necessary. So I think one of the things that you should do in the event that you get worried about the market is you should research businesses that were created or started during the Great Depression. There's a couple of businesses here locally, one in particular that I'm thinking of that was started during the Great Depression, Grismer Tire. They're pretty big here in Miami Valley. And the current owners, their father, during the Great Depression, went and got a loan for $250,000, which is a significant amount of money back then, in order to purchase the business. And that was during the Great Depression. And they now, I think they have like 140 locations. They're doing really well. Ocean Spray, another, the cranberry juice people, they are another company that started during the Great Depression. So regardless of what the economy does, there is going to be opportunity so long as the capitalistic model stays, intact. There's going to be opportunities for us as entrepreneurs to profitably meet people's needs. Assuming there are still people that have needs. Assuming there are still people that have needs that whatever government in place allows private businesses to meet the needs of those people, then you're going to be good to go. Good morning. Thanks for the insights on the Dayton market. Yeah, for sure. I would be curious about how the Cincinnati market's doing, but I think I have heard that it has slowed down a little bit and the prices have dropped a little bit. But for the most part, I think everything is still going just fine. I have a friend down there who he sold some assets and then he has purchased some assets. So I think it's just a matter of time. So one question that I got this past week is how much money do you need to start investing in real estate? And the answer to that really depends on your personal situation, right? So there are a lot of videos out there. There's a lot of people out there that talk about investing in real estate with no money down or low money down or get started without any money. And you can get started with no dollars because especially as widely available as information and technology, everything is available on your smartphone. So if you have a smartphone, if you have access to a public library, then you can get started without any money because you can read for free. You can talk to people that have built the type of businesses or have gotten started in real estate investing for the most part for free in your local area. You could find somebody willing to talk to you and not charge you anything. So you can start learning, you can start developing a new skill immediately without any money involved, just your time, right? However, it is my opinion that when you are listening to these people talking about investing in real estate without any money, they're not like no money does not mean you have $0 in your bank account. Real estate is hands down one of the most capital intensive forms of investment that you could possibly do. When you buy a stock, when you buy a share of a business, the chances that stock is going to turn around and immediately ask you for more money is very slim. With real estate, from the moment your name goes on the deed, that property can request more money from you. You are going to need to have cash on hand in order to sustain any type of real estate investment. Toilet could go out at any time. A pipe could burst at any time. A furnace could stop working at any time. If this is a flip that you're doing, perhaps you can wait on the furnace for a bit, right? Perhaps you could give the seller or the buyer a credit at closing for the furnace. There are some ways that you can get creative there. However, if it is a buy and hold, you have somebody there, you need to provide them with heat. So you're going to have the ability to draw that capital to fix that issue from somewhere. So I am never comfortable with the concept of getting started in real estate investing without any money. I am a huge advocate of people getting started in real estate investing by learning, by generating a new skill, by taking in a bunch of literature, podcasts, however information, uh, however you like to consume information, you can get started with that. You can start going around meeting real estate investors in your area. You can start networking online and, finding people to talk to online that are real estate investors. You can start going to your local real estate investors associations networking meetings. You can get involved. You can start finding people that own properties that want to sell these properties, and you could start wholesaling. Now, just like working a job, wholesaling is a means to an end, right? You're developing a new skill inside of the real estate industry to at one point become an investor in real estate investing. So don't be too smitten or eaten up with real estate, because you're still going to be in a position where you're trading your time for money by generating capital via wholesaling. However, it can easily be a means to an end to get started. So the answer, no. You don't need any money to get started in real estate investing. But if you're going to buy a property that you intend to hold as a rental, yes, you need to have a reserve. Now, as you are learning about real estate investing and about how to have buy and hold investments, I would say that a lot of people teach that you should budget 10% of the rental income for capital expenditures and 10% of the rental income for repairs and maintenance. And I think if you're just starting out, if you are buying your first property, your second property, I think this is a bad way to go. I think you should look at the individual property and determine the two largest capital expenditure items that are going to need to be addressed sooner than later. If the furnace is older and you think the furnace needs to be replaced, figure out how much that is going to cost and then have enough money on hand to replace that. So for this example, let's just say that furnace is going to cost $3,000 to replace whenever it decides to go. If you see that the roof is older and it's going to need to be replaced at some point, and you get a quote for $7,000 to replace that roof, then you need to have the cash on hand to handle that. Those are the largest two things on that property that could go wrong with this particular property. It could be different for another property. It could be the water heater in the driveway. You get the point. I would recommend having $10,000 for reserve for that property. Something else could go wrong, and you could use those $10,000 for, and you could then replenish from the cash flow of the property whatever money that you use. But thinking that you can get by with owning a property with zero money in reserves and then budgeting 20% for capital expenditures and repairs and maintenance and set that aside on a monthly basis, that's a way to get yourself in a little bit of a cash crunch pretty quickly. I would not recommend that. Furthering the point of investing in real estate with no money doesn't mean no money. You're correct about the Cincy market slowed down a bit, but not much. Maybe more downward trend in 2023. Days on market, still about 4 to 7 days. That's not bad at all. That's still a really, really decent turnaround time. What is your personal opinion on how high rates will get and by when? I don't really have an opinion on this. I don't really know. And I don't think anybody can know, except perhaps Jerome Powell. He might be the only person that knows. And I think that any time spent speculating on this is an improper use of my time. I think I should continually analyze properties based on the information that I have in front of me and make decisions that fit that. So I'm going to keep my head down, keep on trucking, and I'm going to find a way to operate a profitable portfolio regardless of what interest rates turn into. So there may reach a point in time where the only profitable way to operate real estate investing with such high interest rates is to double down on ways to extract more capital out of an individual property, like an Airbnb, some type of short-term rental, some type of student thing. But that would require me to pivot and start buying a different type of home, or the same type of home, but in a different geographical location. So just pivoting with the information readily available and keeping it moving. That's what I would say. But keep in mind, I'm no professional, and that could easily bite me. That's just going to be how I kind of approach this situation. One thing I know for sure, though, is that the more people that get fearful, the more people that are unwilling to buy properties based on future uncertainty, the longer the days on market will be, the lower the purchase prices will get. The lower the purchase prices will get, the better the business model will work of purchase price plus rehab costs equals 75% or less of the after repair value. Now, the sneaky thing that you're going to have to watch out for is appraisals are always kind of a lagging indicator, because appraisals go on recently sold. There's naturally a lag in that metric. So there could be a span of 3 to 6 months to a year of lower sales prices before it actually starts impacting what properties appraised for. So 75% of that after repair value is always going to be a moving target based on what the overall housing market in your local area is doing. So what I have seen personally firsthand in Dayton, I believe, similar to what Cosmic Wisdom just said about Cincy, is if it is an appropriately priced property, it is going very quickly, regardless of what price point it's at. If you're asking a reasonable amount, you're going to sell pretty quick. You're going to go under contract fast. Ten people on. We've been going for 42 minutes. This has been pretty fun. We've been hanging out with this red dot in the top right corner. That's pretty cool. Whew, man. We have 3 video topics that we're supposed to talk about this week. How much money do you need to start investing in real estate? We covered that one. And the second one, I've got something for, but it is a very clickbaity title. So if you hear me say something funny, it is, and go off on a tangent, it's because that's what this thing says. The worst. So the second thing is the dirty truth of flipping real estate. And then the third is the worst houses to buy as investment properties. I met with an investor yesterday. We had lunch, and he works a full-time job, and they have a respectable amount of properties. They've got 6 properties. That's a lot of properties to work up while working a full-time job, right? But he told a funny story. He said that his wife will sometimes look at him and say, "Hey, can't we just sell all of these and buy in, this Class A area?" And he was like, "Well, yes, we could, but then our returns would absolutely plummet. It would become a negative cash flowing thing almost instantly." So I would say high priced markets, properties in higher priced markets are the worst places to buy as an investment property. Now, that's top of mind. I know that there are a significant number of people that make it work, but I would argue that the qualifications to be one of those individuals that can make this asset work in the Class A type is one that is more difficult to be a part of. You're going to have to be a really, really high net worth individual or a very high income individual, one where you're not concerned about the cash flow of the property. You don't mind it being a negative cash flow producing asset. You are either banking on the appreciation or you are either really leaning in to the tax benefits associated with real estate investing, and you want to be comfortable with the neighborhood that that asset class is in. Now, I would venture to say that 99.99% of the people that I meet in life or are watching me on YouTube do not fall in the category of the high net worth individual or the really high income earning individual that is looking at a real estate investment as a means to burn cash to save on taxes. In fact, if I were to meet one of those individuals, I would work very diligently to figure out a different alternative than buying a Class A investment property with the sole intention of banking on appreciation and having a negative cash flow for the sake of saving on taxes. I'm sure this is a viable strategy as there are clearly investors buying Class A properties. However, I think with a little bit of elbow grease, a little bit of some brainstorming parties, we could create something significantly better for that type of person than burning cash in hopes of appreciation for the sake of saving money on taxes. So for me, my personal opinion, Class A investment properties are one of the worst things that you could purchase, unless, of course, you purchased that 20, 30, 40 years ago. Now you look like a genius because you have ridden out that negative cash flow. You have ridden out those tax benefits, and now you're left with a big pile of appreciation. And you look like a genius when you sell it for 10 to 15 times more than you purchased it for. I know a couple of those guys. I have to head to Columbus in the spring. That's fun. I may swing by Dayton on my way back to take a closer look around. You should, man. Drive up and down Rosedale Avenue. Please do that. I think Rosedale perfectly embodies a lot of the sentiments that I express on this YouTube channel. Rosedale kind of goes right through some of the greatest homes and architecture in the area, in like the Dayton View area. And almost every single house on Rosedale is currently vacant. Now, in the event that any of these properties are fixed up, they're going to appraise for greater than $120,000 because of its proximity to these really nice homes. However, since all of these homes on the street are abandoned, for any person to get one of them, renovate them, and try to stabilize it, you're going to immediately be met with resistance because it's uncomfortable to live in the middle of so many vacant homes. So it is a high nuisance, but high reward type area. And it's unfortunate in that in order to successfully do this, one person is going to need to buy all of these properties, or a group of people collectively need to come in and buy these and work towards the same goal. So perhaps Cosmic Wisdom, you and I can lead a movement, a Rosedale renovation movement. If you come out, check this area out, and also approve of it. So, hey, Dayton needs all of the help that it can get. I think the city at some point let out some metrics of there's about 10,000 vacant homes in this area still. So there's ample of opportunity. And, you know, right now, somebody that is trying hard, somebody that kind of understands the market, has one property on Rosedale. It's a completely vacant, full gut job. And I think they listed it for sale for 70 or 80 grand. But I cannot for the life of me see anyone ever actually purchasing it. which also fully embodies what I think is happening just on the broader strokes in the market. Is people uh, are now kind of waking up to how much that market has appreciated over the past couple of years, and now they're trying to take their hot trash and market it for full dollar. Well, that's just not a good that's not a good way to go, and a lot of people are not ready for that, which is why days on the market are increasing and the amount of price drops are also increasing. I think it's a little bit of an illusion, but you know, a lot of economists will say that things in the market have a lot more to do with psychology than reality. So if enough people believe this illusion, then it'll probably have some type of detrimental impact. By the way, I know of other investors. Northeast Ohio would like to meet other investors. Yep, I know a couple. Um, there's one guy who's doing big things up there and is doing a great job that is in the mastermind group. Um, yeah, I mean, it's a pretty similar market. Two people, two people in the mastermind group investing in that area. Yeah, all of the Midwest really is a great place to invest capital. And if you can find a way to work in one of these places that give these really high incomes, like if you're a California type person, Seattle, a Washington type person, New York type person, New Jersey, and you're able to successfully invest in the Midwest, I think you've got nothing but success ahead of you. Now it's going to take a lot of finessing, right? Like you're going to need to figure out some systems, processes to put in place. You're going to need to build some really strong relationships with some contractors that you know aren't going to take advantage of you in order to build a sustainable business model that can be trusted and one that you will not be taken advantage of. But it is possible, and the rewards will be great. And especially with remote working still increasing, then uh, the chances of you being able to relocate and invest in a local market is pretty high. In fact, one guy in the mastermind group, he has relocated from California, and he now has 4 rentals here in the Dayton area. So super proud of him. And he is doing exactly what I just got done saying. And it's working out really well for him. So I highly recommend anybody doing it. In fact, if I stayed in North Carolina rather than moving here to Dayton, I wouldn't have nearly the portfolio that we have. Living in an affordable area, one where the price of entry is reasonable and still pretty low, is a real breath of fresh air. It's crazy what's possible if you are just willing to relocate and live even for a brief amount of time. Take a 4-year, 5-year segment of your life and say, hey, I'm going to move to this very affordable area. I'm going to give 150%. I'm going to try as hard as I possibly can to build a business to better my family's life. And then, hey, if it doesn't work out, we can move back to where we came from and, say, close that chapter and say, it is what it is. I tried. But I think way too many people are caught up in acting like they're immovable, that it is, their own detriment. You're trying to figure out how to afford a $800,000 home in a higher price market when you can buy an absolute mansion for that in other parts of the country. If you want to be successful, if you want to radically change your life, you have to be willing to relocate. Jim Rohn, one of my favorite speakers, who has long since passed, one thing that he said is, hey, you are not a tree. You do not have roots so deep that you cannot be moved. And I think that is something that is, really important to kind of meditate on, dwell upon, and figure out like what is right for your life. I meet so many really capable people that could do truly anything they want to, but they can't get a foothold in their local area because they are spinning their wheels, earning an income that is too low, where they're living paycheck to paycheck because they're trying to build a life and make a family in an unaffordable economy. This is not all of America. You can easily move to the Midwest. Easily. Where if you live in the Midwest and you're able to make $60,000 per year, then that would be similar to making, a couple of $100,000 per year in some of these higher priced markets. At $60,000 per year in the Midwest, you could almost buy any home that you would like. The Midwest has a cap, and let's talk about Dayton specifically. Here inside the city limits, I can't tell you the last time I saw a house for sale over $400,000. Whereas in other parts of the country, $400,000 might buy you a 3-bedroom house, might buy you a 4-bedroom house. The largest house that I've seen for sale here in the Dayton area recently is for $210,000. It's about 5,000 square foot, I believe. You can move in now. Sure, there's going to be some deferred maintenance on it because it's so big, and the value of it is $200,000. But if you want a big house for your kids, it's easy to do. Easy to do. And if you want to sit here and talk about school systems or whatever else, hey, take some personal responsibility over that, right? Like, the more personal responsibility, the more ownership you take of things that are under your control, the better off you'd be. If you're able to get your kids some tutors, get your kids, the city of Dayton, they do like a voucher program. You could send your kid to a private school if you don't want to use the Dayton public school system. You could do some homeschooling. There's a lot of different options available to you if you're willing to dig your heels in and try real hard. Man, I missed a lot of comments. Let's see here. Good morning, Ryan and friends. Thanks for the insight on the Dayton market. You're correct about the Cincy market. Personal opinion. I work a full-time job too. It's possible to have a day job and do real estate investing. I just have to manage time efficiently. Yeah, my business is in Summit County. Definitely would like to connect with others. Send PM. Yeah, man, go ahead. My email is ryan@seekwisdom.us. You are more than welcome to send me an email, and I will respond. It might be a couple months, but I will respond. With enough time on the horizon, I have a impeccable track record. Q refinance, local Ohio bank recommendations? Not really. I would just say call all of them. It's one of those things where you should have a relationship with as many local banks as you can. And, one of the things that I would highly recommend is you should reach out to banks, build relationships with them, and then build your buying criteria around the bank's criteria. I see a lot of investors buy assets that they think are a good deal, and then they get really frustrated whenever they can't find a bank that works with them. So circumvent that entire heartache, circumvent that whole pain point, and just seek some clarity from the banks on the front end and say, hey, what type of properties do you love lending on? And then build that into your buying criteria, knowing that you have a bank on the back end that is willing to take care of you. How are you going about refinances today? What seasoning period are you seeing? Most of the lenders that we work with have a 6-month seasoning period. And again, this is a bank specific thing. So we have some banks that have a 0-month seasoning period where as soon as you buy it, you can refinance it. We have other banks that we work with that have like an 18-month seasoning period. So really calling around and getting a feel for a lot of different banks and then figuring out, how to work with those is the way you should go about it. And the way that we have approached it is if we see a deal that comes across our desk that fits a certain lender's criteria, we will buy it. So for the first couple of years, our properties were like $40,000 or less. Then we get hooked up with one bank who has some better terms, but some more stringent criteria. Well, now we have a small portfolio of properties in like one particular suburb that is higher valued, and our average value out there is like $150,000. So whenever we come across good deals there, we will buy them knowing that that is inside of the appetite of one of our lenders. The biggest tip that I could give anybody starting out in real estate investing that seems to be extraordinarily overlooked is the fact that you should, on the front end, build relationships with banks, figuring out what exactly is their buying criteria so that you could circumvent all of the heartache on the back end when you're looking for banks to refinance the portfolio that you have built. Figure out what banks want and build a portfolio around what's a good deal to those banks, not what is a good deal to you. Now, I say that tongue in cheek, saying most certainly still analyze properties the way that you are comfortable with, ones that have equity built in, ones that do cash flow once rented out. Don't sacrifice those two things just knowing that you could refinance the asset on the back end, because refinancing a property that has a negative cash flow is not a win, right? So find a happy medium between both of them. You might not be able to take down every single deal that you want to because there might not necessarily be a lender on the back end. But if you have a relationship, a clear cut understanding of what exactly this bank is looking for, then you could put as many properties in that refinance with that bank as they will allow you. And then you've got a portfolio with minimum resistance on the back end. Any insights into the greater Metro Cleveland real estate market? None at all. As far as geographical locations go, I would say that it is imperative if you are a smaller real estate investor, until you reach the point where you could be a hedge fund, you should not be looking at investing in multiple jurisdictions, multiple geographical locations. You should get painfully familiar with one market, because there is a life-changing amount of money to be made in one particular market. No need to muddy the waters, make things more confusing. No need to try and convince yourself that you're diversifying by having properties in different geographical locations. You are not. You are making things more difficult for yourself. Concern yourself with one market and only care about the things that are in that one market until your life is radically changed from a financial perspective. Then, if you get bored, you can start trying to learn about different markets. But having one property in Cleveland, one property in Dayton, one property in Cincinnati, you're going to be spinning your wheels, and you are not going to be nearly as effective as somebody that would have 3 properties in any of those one locations. So dive in deep, put your blinders on. It's not sexy. It's not fun to do one thing overly repetitively. Read Gary Keller's The One Thing as many times as you need to get it through your skull. I have personally read that book about 15 times because, like most entrepreneurs, I really suffer from this whole squirrel brain thing. Focusing on one thing and changing your life by focusing on one thing is far more effective than anything else. And even though from a YouTube perspective, I become irrelevant to a lot of people in different markets, I'm okay with that because what I'm doing in the one market that I do know about, I'm doing very well and I'm happy with that. And trying to familiarize myself enough with other markets to answer other people's questions is a colossal waste of time in the most respectful way possible. Be the absolute best operator that you can be in that one market. Memorize the areas, memorize the ARVs, uh, memorize average construction costs so that you can go in and make a viable offer inside of 5 minutes on a property. Get really, really good at one market. And then once your life is radically changed and you're bored, you can start looking in other markets. But change your life in one market first. I'm definitely jealous of those Dayton prices. No need to be jealous when you can move, buddy. I moved to Cincy from the DMV area. I have no regrets and probably wouldn't have rentals if I stayed. Yeah, exactly. I would love to, in this office, we're slowly getting things squared away. We're slowly moving in. One of the things that I have on my ultimate long-term to-do list is build a little tiny podcast studio where I'd love to interview people in person. And the main type of person that I want to interview is somebody that has moved and has changed their life. I think so many people get caught up in staying in one spot and trying to figure out how to do this one thing in this one place that they're at, when their knowledge, their understanding, their work ethic is not the problem. Their problem is their geographical location, right? So if you have the ability to move from this overpriced market and take all your information, resources, knowledge, work ethic, desires, long-term goals to a place you could actually afford, you would change your life in record time, right? Record time. Yes, move from DC, best decision for our state. Yes to Jim Rohn, work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Exactly. Yeah. I was in a conversation recently as well with a fella that was talking about his retirement accounts and whether or not he should surrender them. And it's just like, you can't on one hand complain about being stuck at a job and then on the other hand cling to your 401k. In fact, I would make a very strong argument that your 401k is one of the main reasons that you are stuck at and hate your job, right? Like locking away your funds that you have available to you now for a hopeful payoff in 30 years is not a good solution if you are miserable at your current job. If you are having the absolute time of your life working a W-2 position, if you do not want to do anything else when you wake up other than work your job that you are afforded via your W-2 position, then yes, a 401k is fantastic for you. You should check out a fellow called Dave Ramsey, and you should do everything that man says and just autopilot your way. Focus on your passion that is involved in your W-2 job and barely pay attention to your finances and do exactly what Papa Dave says. However, if you have any aspirations of being your own boss, of having this legacy that you can leave, a big old pile of assets that are going to cash flow long after you're dead, that you have the ability to leave to your family. If you want to wake up every day and do whatever it is that you want to from a 9-to-5 perspective, you should not have a 401k. You should use every single resource available to you now to fundamentally change the way that you live now. Now, it is extraordinarily easy to do this while also having a very long-term perspective about you, right? So I'm not saying, take all the funds available to you now and go on a vacation every chance you get. Not what I'm saying. But taking every resource available to you now and buying assets that have equity so that the moment you buy them, you add to your net worth. Assets that each month you own them, they appreciate, they make you money on a monthly basis via the cash flow. They lower your tax burden at the end of the year, so you're able to save more money to the tax man. That is a smart decision. That is something that could get you to leave your job inside of a couple years' time. That felt good. I really enjoyed saying all of these things. 8 people on. We've been doing this for an hour and 10 minutes. I've said some really cool things in my personal, very humble, yet highly accurate opinion. Let's see here. Brace yourself. That clickbait sentence is about to come through. The dirty truth of flipping real estate is that it is a job, and it is a job that carries a ton of exposure. Anytime the market is volatile, the first people to get clipped by adjusting prices and adjusting market are the people that actively have flips available for sale. So if you are flipping real estate, I want you to understand 2 things. First off, this is a job. This is a time for money thing. Yes, it's higher priced and you're going to make a lot of money flipping property if you do it well. But at the end of the day, if you are not taking those proceeds and putting it into something more passive, then you are going to be spinning your wheels, and you are no different than a W-2 employee that has these golden handcuffs that you are now committed to continually flipping properties to sustain the lifestyle that you've built for yourself. Second, if you are flipping in a volatile market, if you are flipping in uncertain times, you're going to want to have multiple exit strategies. In fact, I would say that if you are uncertain about where the market is headed, you should not purchase a property to flip that also doesn't make sense as a rental, an Airbnb, or some other type of buy and hold asset. That was easy enough. Was that too clickbaity? I don't think so. Oh, in fact, before I leave, there are 11 people on. I'm not leaving anytime soon if there are more questions, but I would like to go ahead and tell you all about this channel's new sponsor, which is Color and Style Flooring. They are at 3609 Linden Avenue, and they sell cabinets and flooring. They also do installs if that's something that you are interested in. If you are in the Miami Valley area, if you are not, then the chances of them being able to sell you flooring are very high. The chances of them being able to sell you cabinets at a great rate, very high. However, the chances of them being able to install that on your behalf, very, very slim. So if you are anywhere in Ohio, please reach out to Color and Style Flooring for all of your cabinet and flooring needs. A good rule of thumb for interacting with them is if it is stocked by Home Depot or Lowe's, if it's stocked by one of the big box stores, then the chances of it being cheaper there are pretty high. I said that right, because they buy things in such quantity that Color and Style could never compete with. However, the moment you want to do something custom for your home, we could blow Home Depot, Lowe's, Menards, any of those people out of the water. At a bare minimum, because Home Depot, Lowe's, Menards, a lot of these people stock a ton of like LVP flooring, that's like a 6 mil wear layer, we could most likely get you a higher quality product for about the same as you would pay at a Home Depot or Lowe's. So that is a spiel for my sponsor. Let me type in this link before I post it. Make sure it works. There you go. Colorandstyle.com. You know what? Because I know a lot of people are, look this up. I'm going to put everything in here. I'm going to create some type of graphic that I could put up on the screen during this live stream for this sponsor. There you go. It didn't come out well at all because these are enters and it didn't show any spaces. Color and Style Incorporated, 3609 Linden Avenue, Dayton, Ohio, 45410. Their phone number, 937-253-1131. All the cabinets and flooring that you could hope for. This abandoned mansion renovation that we're doing, they are able to get some phenomenal rates for us on replacing some of these older, intricate hardwood floorings. They've been a flooring company since 1965 in that exact same location. So it's really cool. There are some people that walk in and say, hey, my grandfather renovated this area. There's one broken tile. Can you help me find this same tile? He bought it here. Do you still happen to carry it? And I've been amazed, but they have helped them on more than one occasion. So that's really cool. Just the long-standing tenure that they've had and giving out some really high-quality stuff. Pretty cool. Yeah, I'm going to try and do some type of overlay that looks like that. Let's Color and Style. Maybe something like this. Oh, I thought it was supposed to be see-through. There we go. Q&A with Ryan Ingram. There we go. All right. Any questions that anybody has? Happy to answer those. In the meantime, check out colorandstyle.com or give the old boys a call. Tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, please go ahead and put that on your calendar. Set an alarm. It's past 8, so if you set an alarm for 8 a.m. right now, it won't go off until tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. And as soon as that alarm goes off, you will be able to open up YouTube and watch Jackson and I talk about this abandoned mansion project that we're doing. It's tons of fun. In fact, I'm going to be kind of selfish and request that you share the video with a couple of your friends. It is my hope that this abandoned mansion renovation project really take off so as to help pay for this abandoned mansion renovation. It is full of surprises. And with each surprise, just like everything else in real estate, there is only one thing that can solve it, and that's money. So I think that one of the cool and horrible things about real estate investing is that every single problem that you ever have can be solved with money. Uh, it is both comforting and really scary, for better or for worse. All right. Well, hey, it's 9:21. There are 10 people on. We've been doing this for an hour and 20 minutes. I've had a ton of fun. I have said a lot of things that I'm a fan of. We've covered 3 topics of questions that are going to be good content for later on in the week. Some of them are short, but for the most part, um, I think we did it. So I really appreciate all of you. Thank you. Next Friday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'll be right here to answer some questions. And also tomorrow morning and every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will be releasing a video about our abandoned mansion. It is my hope that we will be able to finish that in about 9 months so that we can move in. Right now, we have 5 kids. We live in a 3-bed, 2.5-bath home, and we've got plenty of space, but it'll be very refreshing to get into a larger space. We could probably live there comfortably at our current house for another 2 years or so before our kids are to the size where it's just uncomfortable being that close to all of your siblings. And don't get me wrong, this abandoned mansion is way too big. It's going to be like 7,000 square foot. So, like, that's an overstep. But each of these rooms are like at least, I don't know, 13 by 15. So they're really big. All the bedrooms are. So, in theory, we could put about 4 sets of bunk beds in each room, which means we could fit about 8 kids per room. On the second floor, there are 5 bedrooms. So 8 times 5. It's a lot of kids. That's a whole lot of kids. And I think if we had that many kids in there, it still wouldn't feel too crowded. Such a big house. Tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, you'll get a walk through the entire property. You'll be able to see all the cool things that are there. And I'm really thankful that we captured this part that we're going to show you tomorrow morning, because it already looks significantly different. And, you know, each time we clean a room out, each time we remove something, it feels more like a viable project. So when we started this, it felt like a lot of unknowns. It felt like it didn't fit any of the patterns of anything that I've done before. So I was pretty scared, but also really excited. And now that we've removed a lot of the damaged areas, now that we've fixed everything structurally, it's starting to feel like just another really big renovation project, one that is actually able to be accomplished. So that's pretty exciting. And I'm really looking forward to kind of videoing and sharing the entire process. So, hey, I really appreciate your time. Thankful for all of you. And I look forward to talking to you all soon. So watch the videos, share the videos, and I will see you next week. Thanks.